We often talk about how insurance companies may not have your best interest in mind when you have a claim if you're dealing directly with them, and why you should hire an attorney. So for today's video, we thought we'd chat a little bit about someone with experience who used to be with an insurance company. I've asked one of our associate attorneys, Jacqueline Wiley, to join us. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Jackie spent a number of years working for a large insurance company in an adjustment role, and she went to large, what's the term for it, with the larger cases?
Casualty business lines.
Casualty business line cases, which are larger cases, larger sometimes than just your normal automobile collision cases, but she's had experience in all of them. And I wanted to get a little bit of her insight about how things were handled. I don't want to suggest that insurance companies are nefariously trying to take advantage of you, although I do strongly feel that insurance companies, because there's no duty on their part to advise you of all your rights, sometimes they don't. But based on your experience there, Jackie, if you have someone were to ask you, I'm going to talk to, I don't want to hire you, Jackie. I don't want to hire a lawyer right now. I'd really just like to call the insurance company and try and work this case out on my own, my claim out on my own. But I want a fair shake. I want to be treated fair. What thoughts or advice can you give me for dealing with that?
I think first I would let them know that they need to treat, if they're injured, they're in pain, then they need to make sure that they treat without a delay if possible. Insurance companies will look at that, and if there's, depending on the length of the delay, insurance companies and potentially a jury could look at that and say they weren't as injured or weren't as severely injured as they could have been, so it's not that big of a loss.
Right. What other things do you think of?
So aside from treating, I would also say they're going to ask you for a recorded statement. You're not required to have them record the statement. You can, reject that and say, I'll give you a statement, but I don't want it recorded. Right. And then they'll just take the information down that you provide them at that point. Right.
I'll often tell new clients that they don't have a duty to talk at all with the at-fault insurance company that's not their insurance company. I do tell my clients that they do have a duty to talk to their own insurance company, and I just tell them that, look, you need to advise them of the time, place, location of the car wreck that you're involved in, and just some general things about the facts of what happened in the collision. They do have that duty. But as far as the claim that they're making against the at-fault person who hit them, their insurance company, they don't have any duty to give those statements. Is that correct?
They don't have a duty. It may be a good idea to give them just the nuts and bolts of, what you're claiming. That way they have something to go off of, because a lot of times if you don't give them anything, they're going to say, well, you have a duty to make your claim. And if we don't know what you're claiming, then how are we supposed to proceed?
So if you had a friend or relative that was going to make that phone call, what would you advise them? What would you caution them about in that call?
I would say, just to make sure that you're letting them know of everything that you're claiming, all of the pain that you've suffered, all of the injuries that you're aware of. Also, the traveling back and forth to your provider. There's mileage, and so you can be reimbursed for the mileage that it costs you to get back and forth from each appointment. Also, if you're married and you have a spouse, there's a claim there to potentially, get some additional money on the table for them if they've assisted with things that you normally handle around the house. Think lost wages. If you miss time from work, that's really important to let them know, so that you can get reimbursed for the amount of time that you lost. If you're a student and your grades declined, get a copy of that transcript, because if your grades declined due to your injuries and treatment, then they'll consider that as well.
It's interesting you bring up some of those things, like if you're married, your spouse might have a claim, or your mileage to and from doctor's visits, things like that. If someone's making a claim and they haven't watched this video or they haven't talked to someone, and if they don't bring those things up when they're making their claim with the insurance company's not obligated to say, hey, don't forget about this. We have to pay you for this if you tell me about it. They're not obligated to do that, correct?
Right, they're not.
And most of the time, they're not going to go out of their way to bring those things up unnecessarily, correct?
Probably not.
Probably not. And so, and they don't have a duty to.
Right.
The client has a duty, in that scenario to make their claim and list out everything that they want to claim.
Right.
The insurance company doesn't represent them. They represent the at-fault driver and the insurance company. And I often say the insurance adjuster's job is to reduce or deny the claim. And some people say, that's a real negative way to look at it. But the reality is, that is their job. They do look for fraud. They look for things that aren't valid claims or where the claimant may be asking for too much and they say, well, we're not going to pay for all those things. Those are things they do, correct?
They're going to try to get you to the lowest number possible that they can settle for, yes.
Right. And so the reverse of that is true. They're not going to try and find things that you should be claiming for. If you come to them and say, here's my claim, here's my property damage, and here's my medical bills, they're not going to say, by the way, what was the mileage to and from the doctor? And by the way, you're married here, I see, so your spouse has a claim potentially for a consortium, and we want to pay. They're not going to bring those up, correct?
Right.
And so there's could be many other claims that they're not going to bring up. And again, I'm not suggesting that they have a duty, because they don't. The duty is on the person making the claim. And I guess the point I'm trying to make is that you're going into uncharted waters many times as a client, as an individual, because a lot of people may only have one insurance claim of that magnitude their entire life. And so they're trying to navigate those waters and they don't know all the things they have the right to recover. And it's no big secret. We want to try and help people with their claim. But the reality is you should talk to a lawyer first. Have you found in your experience that those people that come to you working one-on-one in the past or work with other adjusters when you were at the insurance company that were more educated, had at least had a consultation or talked to an attorney, tended to be able to make more claims that were valid and get more on their settlements?
For sure, when they have an attorney, they're able to get the number up there because they know what to argue, they know what to look for in a claim that can increase the value of the claim itself.
Right. And I think something important to point out is Jackie doesn't have a mean bone in her body, doesn't have a mean thing to say about an insurance company. However, she will not hesitate to fight hard for the individual, and I think that is a big reason why you decided to go to law school, become an attorney, and fight for the individual and make sure that the insurance companies are treating them fair and make sure that they're paying what they're supposed to. It's not a matter of treating the insurance company like they're some type of mean people, but holding their feet to the fire under their contract and making sure that they pay everything that they're supposed to pay under the law, correct? Yes. And you've seen where it's not happened on quite a few occasions. I'm not saying you did it, but in fact, you and I have talked off camera, we talked for a little bit, and Jackie tended to be going out of her way to try and find things to make sure that the person was taken care of, and you would work down a questionnaire and things like that. But a lot of the things we did touch on, you wouldn't go down that path, correct?
As an adjuster.
As an adjuster, right. So it was important to you to make sure that the individual was protected in insurance claims. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, Jackie fights hard for our clients. She's done a great job in pursuing those claims. Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.